And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment, which is going to be talking about top Braves prospect Hurston Waldrep getting called up by the Atlanta Braves and just the overall impact he is going to have on this Braves team. So let's get into it. So now over the weekend, it was confirmed that Hurston Waldrep would be called up by the Atlanta Braves and would be making a start. That start did already happen, as it happened over the weekend. So we'll be, of course, mentioning that and talking about how he did do over there. So, yeah, let's get over it. So, quickly, on Sunday, he did play the Washington Nationals for his first MLB start, and he did go 3 2/3 innings, giving up 4 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, a strikeout, and a home run. So, he now has an ERA of 17.18. Of course, it's one start. You're not going to take it fully into consideration in his career. I mean, it's his first MLB start. Now, maybe he should have done a little bit better against one of the worst teams in baseball in the Nationals, but again, it's his first start. I'm not exactly going to be judging his entire career off it. So, was it unfortunate? Yes, I'm sure that they'd like it to be better. I'm sure Waldrep would like it to be better, but it is what it is. He's still a guy who was only drafted last year and came straight from AA, so it's not exactly like he was fully seasoned. So, yeah. So, Waldrep, I remember last year in the draft, watching the draft, and he was the guy I predicted to go in the top 15. And once he kept falling down and kept falling down, I thought it was very obvious that the Braves would take him. It just made too much sense. He's from Georgia. He grew up a Braves fan. He's a really good, talented prospect from a top college, a college that is known for MLB development. I mean, we just saw his alma mater, Florida. We just saw them yesterday go to move on in the College Baseball World Series. A great game, by the way, that I really had fun watching. Jack Cagliglione is a monster, but we're getting off track here. But Waldrep, it was very obvious once he kept falling, the Braves would take him. And watching the draft last year, they did, and I was mad, and a lot of baseball fans were mad because we kind of did the SpongeBob meme of you can't keep getting away with this, drafting all these great prospects and keep falling to them. And it was very unfortunate as baseball fans seeing this talented player go to such a great organization as the Braves. But at the same time, it made so much sense, and yeah, I was very beside myself when that happened. But still, looking at Waldrep, I see a really great future MLB player. Of course, one bad start isn't going to exactly exactly take away my thoughts on him. I still think he's going to be really great, and I still really love his stuff. When you look at him, you really see mainly a three-pitch mix of fastball, slider, and splitter. His splitter is pretty good, and it's one of his better off-speed pitches, I say. His control does need a little bit of work, but like a lot of young, hard-throwing pitchers, all their control needs work, so it's not exactly like it's some huge thing to say it needs work. So, yeah, with Waldrep, he came over from southern Mississippi as a reliever, but did really well in that spot, and Florida saw him and thought he had potential to be a starter. He transferred over there and did very, very well, ended up getting into a first-round pick for them. He left college with a career 13.5 K per 9 rate, and then struck out 12.6 per 9 per game during his pro debut last summer. He has a splitter, which again is pretty unhittable. It's an upper 80s pitch that is very, very good, has a really high whiff rate back both in the Braves system and at Florida. So that's really great. Again, his fastball, he throws it very well with a lot of velocity, but also, again, it does need some control work. But again, as I said before, I've said it about him, said about some other pitchers on the show as well. A young pitcher with a very good fastball is going to have control issues. It's not something new to just say that they are. So it's not really something that I take a lot of stock into and take a lot of consideration into. So, yeah, overall, I love his delivery. I think it's very smooth and good. And, yeah, I think he's going to end up being a great pitcher for this Braves team and is a really good prospect. And it was interesting that they did call him up directly from AA, but it seemed like they wanted to get max rating after an extra rest day and move him back in the rotation, which is what they ended up doing with Waldrep getting called up immediately. So, yeah, it was very interesting to see that. But, yeah, so overall, again, his start wasn't great, but I think when you look at him as a prospect, you see star written all over him. And, again, watching the draft last year, knowing about him, when he went to the Braves, you're like, oh, this again, especially as a Mets fan, as an NL East, as a fan of a team in the NL East, you're like, oh, the Braves, man. I mean, but is what it is. So, yeah, looking at the Braves, though, with Waldrep, I think it's going to be very interesting now to see what does happen with their pitching rotation. Of course, it's been very publicized that their star pitcher, their best pitcher, I'd say, Spencer Strider, is out for the entire year. No chance of coming back with some kind of elbow injury. A little less than Tommy John, but still, again, out for the entire year, no doubt about that. So you, of course, still have a decent rotation. You have Spencer. You, of course, have Max Fried, who is the ace now. You have Chris Sale, who's had a good season. Renato Lopez has had a good season. But after that, it's kind of iffy and just some depth pieces who aren't the best and are, again, kind of just meh. So calling up Waldrep, I think, is just a way for them to solidify that rotation more. Sorry about that. And just get more depth within it. And I think it was a good move to be able to do that. Was a little strange calling him up straight from Double-A. I thought he could have used a little more seasoning, especially getting drafted just last year. But if they thought he was ready, I'm not gonna really argue with them. It's the Braves, and they know what they're doing. So, yeah. But looking at this rotation again, Chris Sale will probably end up regressing at some point. He'll probably get hurt at some point because of just his history and how old he is. Renato Lopez, I think, will end up being a solid starting pitcher for the Braves, but I don't think he's going to continue to do this well. So really, if you're going into a playoff series against a good team, and at this point, I don't know how likely it is you're going to win that division, so you're going to have to go on the road. You're going to have to be a 4 or 5 seed. And, how likely is it that after Max Fried, you feel confident in your rotation? I don't know. I'd say it's not that high. So if you can get Waldrep in there this early, get him to be solidified the rotation, get him up to MLB standards, that helps your rotation a lot because he's very talented, and I think it would help your depth a lot. So then you would maybe have 2 starting pitchers that you would really trust. But looking at the deadline as well, I think that they are going to go heavy at a starting pitcher. We've heard some rumors about Zach Leflin of the Rays, Jesus Luzardo of the Marlins. Not sure how that would work because it's an in-division trade, but if Waldrep becomes a really good pitcher for them and becomes consistent, I think it would maybe not have them trade for a starting pitcher at the deadline. They wouldn't have to give up one of their prospects because their prospect pool isn't that deep, and I don't know if they can afford giving up some prospects right now. So I think Waldrep is going to play a big part in this Braves season because of the injuries they've had and because of the depth issues they have. So it'll be very, very interesting for me to end up watching what does happen here with Waldrep and what does happen with this Braves team. Again, the Braves are kind of looking a little vulnerable this year. You look at the Braves and you just think, wow, this team is invincible. What can't this team do with all the ways they've won with all the dominant ways they've won the division over the past few years, the dominant offensive core they've had for the past few years. But again, they're looking a little vulnerable right now, and they're looking a little bit like maybe it's the time to strike if you're a team in the NL. They've already had trouble in the playoffs since winning the World Series in 2021, getting embarrassing losses in 2022 and 2023. And without Acuna, without Strider, it's going to be interesting to see how they end up doing this playoffs. I don't know how big of an impact Waldrep is going to have. I think a good one, but not a significant one. And so overall, it's going to be a very, very interesting season for this Braves team to end up seeing what does happen with them. So very interested to watch and very excited to see. So yeah, that is our third segment here, talking about Hurston Waldrep getting called up by the Atlanta Braves, one of these top pitching prospects in baseball. We'll be moving into our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about Adel Amador getting called up by the Rockies. Again, another piece of prospect news. A lot of prospects were called up over the weekend, and I did want to talk about them. So yeah, we'll be going over it, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.